This program airs statewide on California Public Television and is a California's Gold classic.
When we reach the verdant valley and the winding mountain stream, see great cliffs and waterfalls pass in review. Find the skies by day all sunny and at night bedecked with stars, then we know that we are in Yosemite. Here in Yosemite, fair nature's wondrous gem, our hearts o'erflow with peace and joy and love. Each day from dawn till dawn, only the merry song is ever heard here in Yosemite.
You know, it's hard to describe Yosemite in words. Everything about it is so spectacular and on such a grand scale. Driving into the park and then along the valley floor, the great granite domes and peaks tower over you and leave you in awe. Now, this was California's first state park. Of course, now it's a national park and a national treasure. We were there in search of a chapter out of Yosemite's past, a part of Yosemite's rich history. It was called the Firefall, and for almost 100 years, from 1872 to 1969, millions of people witnessed it. In fact, many people came to Yosemite just for the Firefall. Every night during the summer months at exactly 9 o'clock, this event took place, lighting up the sky. It literally took on a life of its own over the years. It became its own living legend. And now, over 25 years after the last Firefall took place, it was time for us to return to the site of the Firefall.
Whoa! Going up here, all the way up.
Now, getting there was an adventure in itself. To be honest with you, we could have driven, but who wants to drive when you can go by mule? Our journey started at the base of Sentinel Rock and took us on a narrow, rocky trail that had been cut out of the side of the mountain with picks and shovels back in the 1800s. It's 4.8 miles long, and in that distance we gained 3,200 feet in elevation, and along the way saw some spectacular scenery. Lots of switchbacks and very narrow sections. I shot this film myself with my high-8 camera to show just how rocky and narrow and exciting this trail was. Our destination, Glacier Point, over 7,200 feet in elevation, and a place where you get a breathtaking view of Yosemite High Country, which of course is dominated by a half dome. This was also the site of the world-famous Glacier Point Hotel, a Yosemite landmark until it burned down in 1969.
Okay, we have finished lunch, and now we are getting the tour of where that grand old hotel used to be. Where did it actually sit?
Basically, it was right in the area. We're walking in here up to that rock, continuing on down almost over to where the other concession buildings are now and the other rocks.
This is where you would be sitting on that veranda looking out over there.
Correct, except about 20 feet up maybe. So.
25 feet up.
Now you know of what you're speaking because you were the manager of this
Absolutely,
hotel.
Yeah, and I was very fond of that hotel. It was very exciting. It was very busy. You know, from an innkeeper point of view, interesting people, the weather, and not to mention the wildlife, and I really mean this. And this used to be bear country.
So there were bears up here.
Bears, many bears.
Were they friendly bears? Was this
Well,
part of the attraction for tourists to come up here?
Well, it wasn't part of an attraction, but they were here, so it became an attraction automatically.
What was it like up here back in the days when the hotel was here? Was it really as grand a place as it looks like in all the old photographs?
Very, very much so. As a matter of fact, you see, this morning when I came up, and I hadn't been here for a few years because now I'm in the back country, and it did something to me. All of a sudden I was very, very nostalgic because it was the grand place, yes. Well, you know, everybody that comes to Yosemite used to take a drive up here.
To Glacier Point.
To Glacier Point.
To see the hotel.
To see the hotel. Then, of course, they stayed. The people came up to have lunch or dinner. And then some of them stayed to watch the Firefall, which we will talk about it later, right?
Well, now, the view is exactly the same as it would have been when the hotel was here. It hadn't changed a bit.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, as Dick was pointing out, this was the front of the hotel, and I was upstairs in my room, and this is the view that I had. Every morning, every night, Half Dome would be at my window.
So that was your view?
That was my view.
You were spoiled rotten.
I was, yeah.
Did you know it at the time?
I did, but I worked very hard at the same time, but I loved it.
Now we're coming to the point of Glacier Point because this is the place where the famous Firefall actually originated, right?
Exactly. This was the spot right over here. And we used to build the Firefall early in the morning. And one of the reasons why we did it early in the morning, between 4:30 and 5 o'clock in the morning, because you can well imagine, try to do it in the middle of the afternoon. It was too crowded because the bark was stored down below here, a few hundred feet. We had a truck, and we would come up here. We would always put 10 wheelbarrows of red fir bark.
I've seen pictures.
That's right.
They're kind of stacked up about like this.
That's right. 10 wheelbarrows, you know, just like that. And then, so we used to, I used to set it up early in the morning at the beginning of the season before some of my employees would come up. And invariably, at that time, there would be someone here at the point asking me to hold a piece of bark so they could take a photo, and I would never disappoint them.
Well, you were famous. You were part of the Firefall.
Well, I don't know if I was famous, but it was a lot of fun, and you meet a lot of people, and you have a lot of conversation.
What was your job exactly? What would you do?
Once I would pile the bark, then I went about doing my other chores, because then at night, at 7 o'clock, we used to light the fire, because it took about 2 to 2.5 hours for the red fir, see? For the red fir.
Oh, here's the fir.
That's the fir.
Where'd you get that?
Oh, I had a piece hidden over there.
There were smaller pieces, so that it could become coal, you know, embers.
So you would have, after 2 hours, a big stack of red-hot coal.
Very hot, yeah.
Okay,
and
now that would take us up to 9 o'clock.
To 9 o'clock.
And that's when the Firefall would occur.
Exactly.
And how exactly would that happen? How would you know when to push it off?
Well, we had a person down below at Camp Curry. I would have a flashlight, and I would signal to him. That meant that I'm ready for the Firefall. So then he would call up, "Hello, Glacier." And I would call back and say, "Hello, Camp Curry." So the fellow down at the bottom would say at Camp Curry, "Let the fire fall." And I would say, "The fire is falling." And down at the bottom there would be a person who would play the violin and sing the Indian love call.
And you would be up here. How would you get the coals off?
And we had a very long grater, you know, scraper, I was standing right over here and push it, push it down.
Now, how would you pace yourself in pushing the coals?
Well, you get into a rhythm because we were very, very careful. If we did a bad firefall, and I'm not exaggerating, I would get about 100 phone calls and say, what a lousy firefall. What happened to you? Were you asleep? What? Okay.
And what would make a lousy firefall?
A lousy firefall, I don't know. If probably we would hesitate between the strokes.
So there was a way you did it to just keep it a continuous flow.
Like a fall.
Because don't you think most people today, when they ask you questions, do you get a lot of questions?
Yeah, because it seems like there are so many people that when they come back to Yosemite, they want to see the firefall again, or they want to see where it occurred. And so the common question is, where did it happen? And I just point to them right there.
Happened right here.
Before this big railing was put in '82.
And I was under the misconception that there was somehow another water connected with it.
Nope.
Isn't that another question you get?
Everybody says, well, where's the water around here for them to light on fire somehow? People couldn't understand how they made the water burn. I mean, so many people that really didn't see it. And if you'd seen it many times, you knew it was just off of a cliff. But a lot of people that had just heard about it or maybe seen it once when they're really small, it looked like a waterfall, except it was fire on it. So, yeah, that was a misconception.
So it was never a waterfall. It was just your hot coals that you were pushing off.
Exactly.
How many people have seen the firefall? You're kidding. You're kidding. When?
1954.
You were here in 1954.
Yes.
You saw it.
Yes.
Was it as wonderful as everybody?
Yes, and everyone waited down below until it came down, and it was beautiful.
Could you hear them yelling back and
Oh,
forth?
yeah. Yes.
What was it like for you?
It was great, and any kids just absolutely loved it. It was the most exciting thing they ever saw. It was wonderful. It was beautiful to watch.
You remember seeing it?
I certainly do. Yeah.
Well, here's the guy right here who did it. Anybody want any autographs,
I was here
pictures?
in 1954, too.
Really?
When did you see it?
Really?
1946.
I thought,
46.
You saw it in 1946.
I certainly did.
You saw it.
Yelled many times, "Let the fire falls!"
But you do it pretty well.
Oh, it was a fun night.
How did they do that again?
Let the fire falls, and he always answered back.
How was it you answered?
Fire is falling!
You better be careful. We're going to get this thing going off again.
That's
We
right.
better be
You better get
careful.
it for-
All right, let's go right out to the edge, because this is where it happened, right here. This is where you would push it
That's right.
right off.
Right between those two rocks over there. You
That's
see
it.
that nice smooth flat area?
Right there.
Right off here.
That's right. Yeah.
And Camp Curry would be
Right down there.
right below
Yes,
us.
right below it. Yeah.
So that would be the way they would see it coming right down
Oh, yeah,
at
absolutely.
them.
Straight on, yeah, at them, yeah.
The firefall took place up on Glacier Point, but it was seen by spectators down on the valley floor, specifically Camp Curry. Now, Camp Curry is itself a story. Established in 1899 by David and Jenny Curry, it was the center of park activity almost from the start. Among other things, the place was famous for its nighttime campfires and nature talks. It was also famous for its nighttime entertainment program, which took place on its outdoor stage. Now, these programs were popular enough on their own, but it was at the end of the program at exactly 9 o'clock that the firefall took place. Well, Camp Curry is still there and still going strong, and the old outdoor stage is still there too, a reminder of earlier firefall days.
You all were in charge of all the entertainment
right
here on this stage for how many years?
19 years.
19 years.
19 summers.
Now, what was that experience like?
It was just a marvelous experience, and it was a golden time.
Now, when you say golden time, why do you say
The
that?
audience had such a great time. We had 3,000 people every night, and they would come at 6 o'clock in the evening and wait till 8 o'clock for our show, and then the Firefall came over at 9.
So you entertained them with various acts or musical acts? What would it be?
A family-type entertainment. We would have puppeteers, have singers, folk dancers with the authentic costumes.
Now we've got some pictures over here that you brought,
Right.
and here the ones on the top. You got 3 ladies playing 2 xylophones.
Yes, marimbas, and they started to call it the marimba capital of the world because we had too many the first year.
It's a wonderful routine.
Where did you find marimba players
Well,
for Camp Curry?
We had to go looking for them, I'll tell you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Well, what was it about it? Was it the location? I mean, there's Half Dome right up there.
Yes, that's a beautiful
Was it the mood the people were in when they came here, that they wanted to have a good time? What was it that made this place so special at night?
The Firefall. They came to see the Firefall, and they were told about it, and what would happen is they'd come at 6 o'clock at night to wait for the show, 2 hours, and then they would show us for 1 hour, and then at 9 o'clock came the Firefall.
So the suspense was building up.
Terrific suspense all the way.
President Kennedy was here for the Firefall. We had it at the Awani. Well, he was at the Awani, but we had to delay the Firefall a half hour because he was eating his meal. And the whole area was in disarray because it always went over at 9 o'clock.
So they wouldn't even permit it to be, even if the president was the reason. They wanted that Firefall at 9 o'clock.
All the horns in the valley of all the cars were honking, and it still didn't bother him any. He just sat there. And when it was time to go, then we sang the Indian Love Call for him, and that was it.
Well, it was a magical time, wasn't it?
Magical time, absolutely.
So the deal was that they would have entertainment from 8 to 9 o'clock here on this stage.
That's
and
right.
Then the suspense would build.
And it would not only build here at Camp Curry, but all around the valley, because everybody knew that at 9 o'clock this fire was going to fall, and it was spectacular, and it riveted campers and all the campgrounds that could look up at Camp Curry, and from the lodge where you could not see Glacier Point, those people would come up into the meadows and watch it from some vantage point where they could see it.
So you there it is right up here. That is Glacier Point up there. That's where the fire would fall.
That's correct. Some 3,000 feet above us.
So, okay, it's 9 o'clock,
Right.
and back in what years did you call the Firefall?
I called the Firefall in the late 30s and up till 42, off and on, and then in the second year of our marriage, which would have been 1956, and my wife was pregnant with our first child, we came to Camp Curry, and then on a Tuolumne Meadows, and I put her on the outside right back there in this auditorium because the manager of the Curry here had asked me to call the Firefall. To surprise her, I called the Firefall that night.
So it was a big deal to be asked to call the Firefall.
Oh, it was. And there was a competition for loud voices, and I guess I had the loudest voice.
Is that what the criteria was? Just whoever had the loudest voice?
Well, personality, looks, but...
Okay, so it would get to be 9 o'clock.
That's correct.
And where would you be? Would you be here on stage?
I'd be on stage right, looking out. And
would there be a spotlight on you?
A spotlight would be not on me personally or on the fire caller. It was on the entertainment. And at that time, there were 2 groups, the Lindemann sisters and their mother, who was a very close friend of Mrs. Curry.
Okay, now, so where are you? Where are you going to be?
I walk right up here, and I stand here, and the spot is on myself and the entertainment, but it slowly narrows down so that I'm in the dark. And so it's focusing on the entertainment.
And then you would do what?
Oh, actually there was a flashlight signal from, I don't know, somewhere over in here that would signal up that they were ready, that the 2 people, generally 2 people that would continuously push these falls off, as Nic Fiore explained, so that you got this constant feeling of a fire fall like water coming over a waterfall. And then you would start your call, but you had to start the call so that it was synchronized, that when the last call came back from Glacier Point, that at that moment the fire started to fall. If the fire started to fall during the calls, obviously it was a miscue.
Okay, so let's run through this. Do it for us. It's 9 o'clock.
It's 9 o'clock. All right, well, the flashlight signals have indicated that they're ready to go.
Hello!
Ricochet around.
Glacier!
Then the return call would be hello, Camp Curry, or sometimes just hello, Curry.
Let the fire fall!
Great suspense. And then there'd be a response from Glacier Point, and at that point, within a matter of seconds, the fire would start to fall.
And as the music historian, they would play.
Well, I get to be the Lindemann sisters here. And they would sing, "When I'm calling you, will you answer too? I offered my love to you to be your own. If you refuse me, what shall I do? Just waiting all alone. But if when you hear my love call ringing clear, I hear your answering echo so dear, then I will know our love will come true. You'll belong to me, I'll belong to you.
Then there would usually be a pause, and I have seen many people cry at the end of that program. And it would be what seemed like minutes, but I'm sure it was 30 seconds or so. And then there'd be a slow sound of a few people bold enough to clap, to break what was really almost a spiritual church experience. And then pretty soon the crescendo of the clapping. And you could hear the clapping from the meadows and all around the valley afterwards. It was, I get very emotional even thinking about it now.
I get emotional hearing you talk about it.
It was a very emotional experience. And a lot of people would actually cry.
Well, the old Firefall is gone. I guess the last one fell in
1968.
68, and I'm sure you get 100 questions a day from people wanting to know why. I'm sure there are a lot of misconceptions. I don't want to open up a whole can of worms here, but why did they stop the Firefall?
Well, it was just attracting so many people that everyone coming over here every single night, roads would just be completely blocked. There would be traffic jams that would last for hours. People would just drive off the road into the meadows. The meadows were getting destroyed not only from the cars, but from the thousands of people that would just walk out into the meadows and lie down and enjoy the Firefall. So the meadows were getting trampled. The traffic was unbearable. There was even a group of people that was stealing from the hotels and campgrounds while the people were all out at the Firefall. And also, sort of a philosophical reason is we were getting so many people in Yosemite. See, we reached 1 million in 1953, 2 million in 1965, and now we're up to 4 million. Well,
a year,
right. And so in the 60s, we were over 2 million people, and we didn't really need an artificial event to attract more people to Yosemite, to try to get more people to come. We were already getting plenty of people. So we realized, well, this is one event that's not natural, and the whole idea of a national park is to preserve the natural features and the natural occurrences. So they decided, between all the problems it was causing in the valley and just philosophically, perhaps it didn't really fit.
Well, the Firefall is gone. It will never again come cascading down the side of Glacier Point. It has become part of the folklore, the legend, the history of Yosemite. Interesting thing about it is, of course, that Firefall was never a natural part of Yosemite. It was created by man and enjoyed by man. But a few miles west of where I'm standing right now, there's a waterfall called Horsetail Falls. And the last 2 weeks of February, at a certain time late in the afternoon, the sun hits the water at a certain angle and creates a natural firefall. It is one of the most magnificent sights you will ever see in your life. You cannot believe that this is water coming out of this waterfall, but it is. And it is a part, a continuing part of the Yosemite story. And it is very much a part of California's gold. Well, it's a classic, all right. And if you'd like to see this California's Gold adventure again, share it with your family and friends, or perhaps donate a copy to your local school or library. It's available on DVD. It's also on another very special DVD containing 10 of your all-time California's Gold favorites. To order, all you have to do is call 1-800-266-5727, and we'll be glad to send it to you right away.